We have one bill before us today, House Bill 580. Representative Crawford, you're recognized to present your bill, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. So the bill you have before you is House Bill 580. We do have a small amendment.
I'm sorry, we have a PCS.
Oh, yeah, we have that too.
Does everybody have a copy of that? You have an amendment and a PCS?
Yeah.
You're pushing it on your first time here. Let's try to hold it to one.
It's not my first time here, so I'm just going to do all the things at one time.
Just do all you want to. The PCS is properly before us at this time. Would you like to do the amendment or the amendment?
We'll do the amendment.
You're recognized to present the amendment.
So this is just a small amendment that changes the line 9 on page 1 by deleting adults age 18 and substituting the words individuals age 16, because this the services that we're talking about deal with working aged individuals. So we're lining that up with what is working age in North Carolina.
All right. Any questions on the amendment for Representative Crawford? Hearing none, you move for approval?
Sure.
All in favor, aye. Opposed likewise. You now have the floor to present your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, the bill before you today, House Bill 580, is dealing with the Community Activities and Employment Transitions Program, which is nothing new. Advocates, providers, families, and people with IDD have been working on this really since 2007, and it was actually funded once upon a time with state dollars as a pilot by members of the Marketing Association for Rehabilitation Centers, MARC, and later was developed as an in lieu of service titled Long-Term Community Supports by MARC, VIA, and other stakeholders in collaboration with NC Medicaid. The challenge is that there's currently no statewide service definition for CATE, Community Activities and Employment Transitions Program, nor is there any permanent funding stream. The goal of CATE is to provide additional choice in employment and meaningful day for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, for working aged individuals, age 16 and older, that are not in school, because we know that there really are not enough options once you graduate or age out of school for people with IDD. There aren't enough meaningful day or work opportunities for those individuals. And we have between 16 and 17,000 people who are waiting on the Innovations Waiver waitlist for services, and this could help give individuals some in lieu of services that they would be eligible for. So this bill authorizes and provides funding for DHHS, $500,000 in funding for the first year to study the feasibility of adding this new Medicaid service, community activities and employment transitions. The state can review existing service options and consider additional options for offering eligible individuals services that will provide day activities and work opportunities. Those could include modifying the existing 1915 I waiver or starting a new waiver. The state also has the option of adding a statewide in lieu of service to the 1115 waiver, which is our managed care waiver. The bill also provides that the department has to report back to the legislature no later than April 1st, 2024 with a plan to move forward. It requires that the Division of Health Benefits and MHDD and SUD coordinate with stakeholders to develop the CATE program service model, and it provides funding for the second year, 24-25, to be provided to DHHS to draft the request for any necessary waiver amendments and the new service definition, and that's the funding that is required to put that definition together.
Right. Representative Blackwell, you appear to have a question from just our telepathic ability that you and I have developed.
I need to clarify at the start, are we limited on our numbers of questions today?
Most people aren't, however, we can make exceptions, but you're recognized for a series of questions.
Thank you. Representative Crawford, I understand that this would potentially impact the number of people we currently have on the innovation waivers list. Do you have any sort of, speculation or thought as to what the potential number of individuals that this program might reach, and if it did, would that get them off of the waiting list?
You're recognized, Representative Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I don't have that number before me. What I can tell you is that the long-term community supports program, which is kind of the in lieu service definition that VIA has, and Alliance has some similar services. Partners in Trillium also have similar services. There are currently 450 individuals served under the VIA LCT TS definition in lieu of service. I don't have an exact number of how many people this could get off the innovations wait list. I don't know if DHHS has a number. I know that they're in the room.
You have another question?
Follow up.
Yes, sir.
So on the 450 on VIA, are you saying you do not know, or you think that those 450, because of those services provided by VIA, would be off of the innovation waivers wait list, or we don't know because they may need other services?
They may need other services. This in lieu of service would be in lieu of those other Medicaid services. So those 450, and I do think the department might want to answer this question. Mr. Chair, can we recognize the department?
At this time, I'll recognize Matt Gross from DHHS.
Hi there, Matt Gross,
If someone else is going to speak, they'll need to give their name and organization.
Sure, Matt Gross, DHHS, Representative Blackwell. So it's not that it pulls the people off the waiting list. One of the things we already offer, and this will expand, is a suite of services for people while they're on the waiting list. So the Innovations Waiver program is still something that these folks will be eligible for and hopefully be able to get onto someday, but it means that while they're waiting for that, they just don't languish. They provide some additional wraparound services. And if the chair pleases, I've got Julia Adams, who's also worked on this legislation, and go into a little more detail on those services.
Ms. Adams, you're recognized for support information.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Julia Adams-Shurik. I'm with the City Government Relations. I represent MARC, NCARF, and NC-APSI, as well as the Autism Society of North Carolina. Thank you so much for your question. The department is correct. This will open up a new array of services so that individuals who are not receiving something today may qualify for this under either the 1115 in lieu of service or under a 1915I state plan amendment. They can still remain on an innovation wait list. And if that higher level of service is needed, then when that wait list opens up and that place opens up, they can transfer into it. But what we are seeing here is the culmination of work of over 17 years to finalize this process. And we want to thank, obviously, at this time, our partners at VIA, Trillium, Partners, and Alliance, who have been very helpful in piloting this program and are in support, as we understand, of this piece of legislation.
You have a follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Ms. Adams, if I may, so are we saying that for someone who currently, let's say, is on the innovation waiver wait list, that maybe that entitles them theoretically to access, if they were provided services, up to 20 different types of services and things? This program might provide 6 or 8, but they'll still potentially need some of those others. Is that sort of what we're talking about? This is sort of a partway step towards full services?
Ms. Adams, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Julia Adams-Shurik with the City Government Relations. Thank you, Representative Blackwell, for the question. Yes, when we look at the innovation waiver, there are some things in the innovation waiver that are not included in the proposed legislation. For example, home modification, right? But this provides some other services that are critically needed for individuals with IDD who may not be able to access them any other way. Does that answer the question, sir?
Thank you, Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Shepherd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, basically, I'm not opposed to this at all, but my question has to do with the new Medicaid bill that we just passed recently. Will this add to the rolls if this is approved? How will it affect that? And just any information you can give me concerning that.
Representative Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Mr. Chair. So this really is separate from the Medicaid expansion bill. These are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are eligible for services because of their IDD diagnosis. So a lot of them are already on the innovations waiver wait list who are, this is the wait list of the Registry of Unmet Need, which is about 16 or 17,000 individuals right now. So when we do things like we provide innovations waiver slots in the budget, it pulls those individuals off of that wait list and gives them full services. So this would be an array of service option for individuals with IDD, separate and apart from Medicaid expansion.
Follow up, Mr.
Follow
Chair.
up, sir.
So then this is already a funded program.
The CATE service definition does not exist, and there are some of the MCOs, LME MCOs, via Trillium Alliance and Partners, have similar services that provide long-term community supports, but there is not a community alternatives and employment transition service statewide definition, nor is there a permanent funding stream. So what this bill does is it authorizes and provides funding for DHHS to do the study to figure out how we can create a statewide service definition and fund it.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Crawford.
Thank you, Chairwoman Porey.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Crawford, I appreciate this bill. I support this bill, but I wanted to know if you could please drill down a little bit more on these new services, what they do, the benefit of them, if you can talk through that a little bit so we can get a better idea.
Representative Crawford, you're recognized.
Absolutely, and I may look to the department or Julia, who's now left the podium, to provide some additional support for this from her client's perspective. But what I can tell you is that this is a meaningful day option for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, which includes community alternatives or employment services to help individuals transition into employment that is right for them. So that is what those services do. And if we can recognize Julia to drill down a little bit from Mark's perspective, who've been doing services similar to these.
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized, Ms. Adams.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I'm going to cheat today and read directly from a description of the services, if that's appropriate. The CATE definition is a community-based Medicaid service. It will be for 16 and older with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and it provides individualized services and supports that meet the eligibility criteria that will be outlined by the service definition. So let's go ahead and just go here. It will offer a meaningful day, week activities in the least restrictive environment of their choosing, provides the individual with assistance in developing, maintaining, and promoting skills of daily living, provides active treatment, which is not the same as mental health treatment, to enable development of necessary skills, experiences to live as independently as possible in their community, provides an individual with support to develop and maintain or increase their level of functioning so that the individual can reach their highest level of capacity and skills while supporting their desired quality of life. Active treatment is defined by 42 CFR 483.440A as continuous program that includes aggressive constant implementation of a specialized generic training, treatment, health service, and related services. CATE is going to be a small group service. Individual one-to-one support is needed. Provides support to 16 and older with retention, improvement of socializations, social capital, daily living, and of course, employment.
Thank you.
Would you like me to continue? You're good.
Chairman White, you're recognized, ma'am.
Is it okay if I asked a question to Ms. Adams?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you, for the benefit of the audience that may know more about Mark right now than they do about this program, could you give a little comparison between the difference in what Mark offers now and what this new program would offer?
Thank you so much, Representative White. I'll do my best to answer that. So Mark is an an ADVP licensed provider association. So they do, as a base, MARC provides a place for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to work. They do supported employment under the innovation waiver. They piloted this program under VIA, where they provide meaningful day. So that would be supported employment in the community, skill building. And then they actually, many of the providers take individuals out into the community to do community-based work, for example, participating in Special Olympics, in key training programs. Many of the providers under MARC, which is an association, also do a lot of work around health and wellness. Some of them in group homes, and the group homes also participate through an arrangement of reimbursement in this definition under VIA. So MARC is an association, and they've been in the western part of North Carolina for many years. Does that answer your question, Representative White?
Representative Wheatley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to make a comment, if I may. I support this bill. I think it's sorely needed. When you say 16,000 folks with disabilities, 18 years and older, those folks are at home, those young people with nothing to do and a lot of time, no one to take care of them. This will give them a lot of hope and some security and family support that they direly need. So thank you very much for bringing this bill forward.
Thank you, Representative Wheatley. Representative Blackwell, since last week was a 2-minute limitation, you're certainly making up for it, but you're recognized.
Well, I only intend to ask 2 questions on this round, so I'm maybe within the rule. This is from Ms. Adams. I think when you were reading, you made reference that these are an array of Medicaid services, and I'm trying to understand how that fits with the answer that we got earlier to Representative Shepherd's question that this wasn't covered by Medicaid or would not be under Medicaid expansion.
You're recognized, Ms. Adelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Blackwell, for the question. Currently, when you do an in lieu of service in the state of North Carolina under the LMEMCO system, and we have one LMEMCO here who can speak to this as well, they are able to access extra money underneath their LMEMCO 1915 BC waiver that has been funding the in lieu of service known as CATE in its different forms between Trillium, VIA, Partners, and Alliance. This does not expand the Medicaid population the way a Medicaid expansion bill will do, but what Medicaid expansion has provided us, Representative Blackwell, is the opportunity for LMEMCOs who have had to cover individuals primarily with mental health issues and SUD issues underneath their limited state dollars. Those individuals will then go into hopefully a Medicaid expansion population. Those services will become Medicaid. In order for us to be successful with the CATE definition as we move forward into the tailored plan, which is the next incarnation of the LMEMCO system, we have to do 2 or 3 things to make this really beneficial, robust, and stable. The first thing is, as we go into a tailored plan, which is full capitated managed care down the road under an 1115 waiver, we need to start to stabilize our service definitions so that they are the same at each of the tailored plan locations. This bill will begin that process of stabilizing the definitions. And as we move away from our BC waiver, those B3 funds that have been critical to LMEMCOs to design innovative services, those B3 services will disappear, which is why we're transferring so many folks into the 1915I state plan amendments so that the service will remain intact but have a new funding stream. It's the same with these in lieu of services. Instead of having a different in lieu of service at each of the tailored plan sites, this bill seeks to create one statewide definition and one stabilized funding stream under the 1115 waiver, which CMS has been able to approve for some states. We'll be looking at that as an option, or under a 1915I state plan amendment, which is similar to what we would see with a private duty nursing or personal care, all of those things under a state plan amendment. which also creates statewide-ness and effectively allows us to draw down Medicaid dollars so that the service remains constant. And we are able to, as new people come into the system and are identified, hopefully, through our EPSDT or other service lines, those individuals who will qualify this would be able to have this at the age of 16 and up. It also allows folks, when they're transitioning out of our school systems, to really have a service that they can go to that is meaningful day, so it supports the families, as well as preparing the youth for a full and robust life inside of their community, which will also include employment. Thank you for the question, sir.
Thank you for that answer.
One last question.
If you'll respond in a more limited time, that would be allowed.
In the past, there have been concerns, I think you and I have talked about this maybe last session, about the inadequacy of providers. What's the expectation as to whether we have sufficient providers for this particular initiative?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Julia Adams Shurik with the City Government Relations. Thank you, Representative Blackwell, for the question. This bill comes to you from the providers who would be doing this service. NCARF and MARC are two of the largest providers of these services currently, along with NCAPC. And that is why they are bringing the bill forward to you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the chairs or the committee? Now the chair recognizes Chairwoman White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for a favorable report to the PCS as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill with a serial referral to appropriations.
Any further comments or discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed likewise. The bill passed. This meeting is adjourned.